So I have been a property manager, like I said, since 2009, so almost 10 years now. And if I'm being honest, there are times when I really feel like, how have I been a property manager for 10 years? Like, I've had the same title for 10 years, and that's a really long time. I could be a fourth grader by now. And I think for me at least, when I start feeling like I'm not moving forward, I start wondering what my future looks like in this industry. If I'm not moving forward, where am I going? And so over the last couple of years, what I have come to realize is that as a property manager, it's more important that we are focusing on, and I am focusing on, my legacy and what am I doing regarding this industry and to shape the industry, than it is to be focused on what does my next promotion or career path or step look like.
Welcome to the Student Housing Insight Podcast, where we are putting you in touch with the people who bring student housing to life. I'm your host, Wesley Dees, and joining me today, Greta Dare.
I love a long pause, like I was going to say my own name there for a second.
I was kind of thinking maybe you would.
Yeah. Like we have a gimmick. Greta Dare. Hi. It's like I'm running down the stairs. I'm a goofy sidekick. Hey, guys.
Well, and that teaser that you just heard was going to be the bulk of our podcast today. Jacki Pingel from Peak Campus, and she was actually our very first idea presenter at Student Housing Insight's Regional Summit that we did in Charlotte at the Whitewater Center back on October 23rd. And I've got to tell you, it's been quite busy. I realized today that we have not uploaded a podcast since October 2nd.
It's been a minute. It's been a long minute.
I told somebody the other day, I said, yeah, it's been 3 or 4 weeks. So I need to get back, and I've got so much content that we've got to get edited. And yeah. And so I looked it up as we were getting ready. I'm like, oh my God, we haven't done anything since October 2nd. It doesn't feel that way at all, but it's been busy. It's been a busy 6-7 weeks. Now we're going into the holiday season for sure, with Thanksgiving being next week. And so, yeah, let me just kind of catch everybody up. I think where we left off was we did a recap of LeaseCon that Interface put on, and then I was headed out to Huntington Beach, California for NMHC's annual Student Housing Conference, which was great. We also had Student Housing Insight's first ever conference.
We did.
And that was on the 23rd, October 23rd.
Correct.
And a lot of big thanks again to Axiometrics and Grace Hill for all of the prep work that they helped with that, as well as all the other sponsors. We had a total of 16 sponsors, 18 sponsors. I thought it went really, really well.
It really did. It really, really did, Wes. And I just, again, I had literally nothing to do with it. My job was just announcing those 16 sponsors. And by the end of it, I was so, so happy for you and so proud. And so when I say it went really well, that's not me humble bragging about myself. That's me praising you on a job well done, because it was so phenomenal.
Hey, I'll take praise any way I can get it. Well, no, I think I was pleasantly pleased. It was, anytime it's your first event, there's always concerns, and listeners, you'll have to excuse both Greta and I as we got on this recording earlier and realized we were both dealing with all this allergy stuff coming from 3 days of rain in the Carolinas, and I'm starting to kind of feel the sinuses, filling back up again. So my voice is probably going to go here shortly, but yeah, Summit. So again, this is a new thing we're doing to expand the Student Housing Insight community, and to really bring value to the biggest part of our industry, which is our site managers and our regional managers that, quite honestly, I feel like they've been ignored, and not just the conferencing, but from just the networking and education part of our industry. And so it was great to put that on. We'll talk a little bit more about it. But one of the things that we're going to do, because if you weren't in that region that we were focusing on, or you were in that region and you weren't able to attend, there's still a lot of takeaways that you guys are going to be able to get. The second half of that day is really, or I would say the last third of that day, is focused on what we're calling idea presentations. I've done, a lot of speaking with people in the student housing industry, especially at the site level, and I'm amazed at the ideas that we all have on how we can make things better in this industry. And there's really just not the right platform to present those things and discuss those things. So the last third of the conference after dinner, this is what we're focusing on, is listening to these presentations and doing a Q&A kind of thing. TED Talk is probably the best way of describing it. Each presenter's got a max of 18 minutes, and I think I only had to slap one person on the hand for going over 18 minutes. But the first one was Jacki. And so I've ripped the audio from that video. If you want to go see the video, it's up on our YouTube channel. Go check that out. A little bit of background. I met Jacki, through LinkedIn, probably sometime over the summer. I'd kind of put out on LinkedIn that I was looking for everyone's ideas on how to make the student housing industry better. And she quickly responded, and we started chatting, and the more we started talking, I said, I think the idea that you're trying to put out there is that, managers need to be more focused on legacy, leaving a legacy, a positive legacy, over chasing a promotion. And Jacki she just nailed that point on the head with her presentation.
She really did, though. I have so much respect for her on so many levels. I sat there and listened to her talk, and I wanted to stand up at the end and just start screaming. And I was like, sit down, Greta, don't be loud and obnoxious. It's like fighting my inner monster to be super loud, because I was so just bowled over by how obviously intelligent she is, how obviously capable she is, how experienced she is, how well read, how well spoken, how well she presented the entire concept, and what a great point it was. Because it isn't just applicable to property managers. It isn't just applicable to any particular position. It's something that is applicable to any position in the entire industry. And that's something that's worth considering is, are you really great in any position if you've only been doing it for a couple of years? And that's speaking from personal experience. Are you really great if you've only been doing it for a year? Are you really great if you've only been doing it for a couple of years? And that doesn't mean that that's a tried and true rule. Some people are really great if they've only been doing it for a short time. Some people absorb things like a sponge and they pick up on it. That's great. That's grand and wonderful. But that doesn't mean that that's always true. And I think that she is truly great. And I think that that's incredible. And I think that that's something that we do need to be focusing on, is turning out truly, truly great and incredible people in truly great positions. How do we make these people great? And I think that it's more difficult in student housing than it is, say, in hospitality or in conventional housing. And I think that's the cyclical nature of this industry. You go through 1 year in student housing and it's like, did you prove yourself or did you not prove yourself? Did you lease up or did you not lease up? And that's kind of true across the board. As a leasing manager, as a general manager, as a leasing and marketing specialist, as a regional manager, as a marketing manager, as a director of marketing, a director of leasing. A lot of these positions, your fate is decided in one leasing year. I've seen regional managers, a slew of them, that were fired in one bad leasing year. Are we going from good to great if we're given that one cycle? Are we? Because in conventional housing, that doesn't happen, because you have one season. Generally, your leasing season most commonly is from, May to October. That's your leasing season, with the strongest season being, those summer months, because that's when the majority of people move, especially where you see, a lot of seasons happen.
Right.
And so if you don't get, to 100% by the time Thanksgiving rolls around, you're not going to see regional managers get fired. No, you see people at these major companies, the Equities, the Aimcos, you don't see people go, oh, well, I'm going to lose my job because one or two of my properties didn't get to 100%. You don't see that happen quite as much. You see people that stick around with these companies for years and years and years and years. And these regional managers have been there for so long, and they've been doing this for so long. And some people can make the argument, well, they're stagnant, are there fresh ideas? And there's other ways to combat that. So I think that here in student housing, we have the opportunity to keep a freshness, which we need. We desperately need to keep the freshness to be able to stay on the cusp. Since we are catering to the student body, but we also do need greatness. And that does mean that people need to be able to stay in positions for longer than one cycle or two cycles. They need to be able to grow and become great in their positions. And we need to be mentoring them. We need to be growing them. We need to be focusing on that growth and allow for that to happen. And I just think she's incredible. I honestly couldn't possibly think higher of her or more highly of her. And I think that we need to be striving as an industry to be creating more general managers like she is, and taking a cue from that and saying, how do I recreate that? What can we possibly be doing to make this happen, where we have somebody that self-studies, that, she's listing off books that she read. Like, that's something I used to do, and that's not saying like, oh, be like me. I'm not saying I'm great. Like, obviously there's plenty of people out there to be like, oh, but that's something that you want, somebody that's going to go, I'm going to go pick up these books and I'm going to read them because I want to be great. I want to be, a great manager. I want to understand all of the different business aspects of my job. Find ways to make this person do that. And there's no bad side to that. So that was my opinion on that. I think she's phenomenal. I really, really do.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, let's go ahead and push play on this. And just a quick reminder, this is sponsored by, and I'm very thankful to these folks, because it's not just this podcast episode that they sponsored, but they actually sponsored the speaker, meaning they paid money to sponsor specifically the idea that was being presented. And the sponsor for this presenter is South Park Interiors, who also just recently launched We Are Stellar Designs, which is a really cool idea, because Greta, how often have you gone into or been part of a tour, either a tour that you were given or you were, secret shopping somebody, and you go into a model and, you see that accessory piece, either that pillow or, maybe it's the doormat, and you're just like, oh God, I love this, I love this pillow. I love this accent piece, whatever. Where did you get that? Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever done that?
I did that with an office chair, and it was actually an SPI office chair. And I literally sent that email and I was like, hey, where do I get this office chair? Because I really love it. So it's exactly on point for where you're headed right now, actually.
So, SPI has been in the business for, over a decade now. I think they were actually maybe the second or third guest that we had on the podcast way back when. And just love Martha and Lisa. And of course, they've got their own line with F3 Furniture. But in addition, they just kept hearing this thing of students saying, hey, where can I get that? Is it at Target? Is it at TJ Maxx? Where can I get that? And so they've actually created and just recently launched We Are Stellar Designs. And I think they're just calling it, I think that's the website, wearestellardesigns.com.
It is.
They've launched it as Stellar, and it's a great online catalog where you can send all your tenants to get that stuff. Yeah. So anyway, they are the sponsor for Jacki, and without further ado, here's her presentation.
Okay, hi everybody, I'm Jacki. I am a property manager, and I have been for a really long time, and that is how I came to Wes and to this conference to talk about what I think it means to focus on our legacy as property managers or team builders more than being focused on our next promotion or our next title. So I wanted to start with a little bit about myself. I came to the student housing industry in 2007. Was anybody in student housing in 2007? Okay. So if you remember way back then, I think one of the defining things about property management teams in those days was how young we were and how quickly we were getting promoted. Anybody else? Yeah, so I had never been in property management. I was hired basically what we would call today an assistant manager. And I moved from Michigan to Wisconsin to join this property management team. And when I got there, my property manager was 2 years younger than me, and I was in my mid-20s. And he had been a leasing consultant for 8 months before he was made a property manager. Yeah, like that doesn't happen today, but, right? But back then, for obvious reasons, but back then, I don't think this was that uncommon, because I think in those days, the industry was really focused on this entrepreneurial spirit, and things were moving quickly, and people were being rewarded for hanging in there and helping to develop the policies that have shaped the industry we're all working in today. The downside, or the flip side, it's not really a downside, is that today we are a more institutionalized industry. And so in addition to having more institutionalized reporting and operating policies and procedures, we also have more institutionalized human resources standards, promotion standards, and we've seen the rapid growth or promotion slow down. And so I have been a property manager, like I said, since 2009, so almost 10 years now. And if I'm being honest, there are times when I really feel like, how have I been a property manager for 10 years? Like, I've had the same title for 10 years, and that's a really long time. I could be a fourth grader by now. And I think for me at least, when I start feeling like I'm not moving forward, I start wondering what my future looks like in this industry. If I'm not moving forward, where am I going? And so over the last couple of years, what I have come to realize is that as a property manager, it's more important that we are focusing on, and I am focusing on, my legacy and what am I doing regarding this industry and to shape the industry, than it is to be focused on what does my next promotion or career path or step look like. And so I look at my legacy really by asking myself two questions, and these are questions that I ask myself all the time, and I hope that you will ask yourself as well. Number one, am I changing this industry for the better? And number two, are my employees or my former employees successful? And so in kind of walking through this with Wes and talking about it, here I think is the two key components to creating a legacy that you can be proud of, whatever your title is or wherever you end up. So number one, constantly remembering that we on site, and I think there's some regionals in the room, so y'all too, we really have the power to shape the industry. So anyone that's been here or has been with any of the major companies, you've heard the stories of the CEOs, the COOs, the presidents. They started as leasing consultants, they were an RA, and they really grew up in this industry through the ranks from, I don't want to say the bottom, but from, really the entry-level positions, and now they're the RMs, the VPs, the COOs. And I think that if you and I do our job right, we can continue that, right? Like, we can continue to raise up the next generation of C-suite holders. And I would like for us to focus really intentionally on what that means. So all of us are operating in areas that have academic institutions. All of our academic institutions have diversity statements or inclusionary statements of some kind. And one thing that I focus on is making sure that where I'm operating in my market, I am using that statement to guide my practices as well, because I think that the best, strongest, most productive and cohesive teams are going to be ones that are representative of the students that we serve. And so as a property manager, we have the ability to recruit and retain and promote strong and diverse talent, and really over the years create much more diversity of experience and thought than I think is prevalent in our C-suite spaces today. So that's number one. I can shape the industry. I might be a property manager, but I'm still productive. I'm still productive in shaping the industry. And number two is remembering all of the time that our employees are always a reflection on us. So last month, I wrote this when we were going to be meeting in September, so 2 months ago now. 2 months ago, I had the coolest thing happen, and this was a new experience for me in 10 years, so they do come up. I had a leasing consultant that I hired in 2012. He was a junior at one of the schools in our community, and he had no leasing experience, but he had this just really incredible personality. He's one of those people you just want to be around, and we hired him on the spot. And he stayed with us. I actually left the property before he did, but he has stayed in the industry. And 2 months ago, he was hired by Peak Campus to be a property manager on our new development team. So he's currently doing a new development in Illinois, not that far from me. And it was the coolest experience because he, like many of us, didn't ever intend to be a student housing property manager. I think a lot of us can probably say that. But he got hired when he was 20 years old, and he just grew in this industry and in all of these different positions that he had had, and now he's a property manager, and it was really exciting to reconnect with him as he came to Peak as a property manager. And for me, it was just one more reminder that our employees, no matter if they work with us today or they worked with us 5 years ago or 8 years ago, they constantly are a reflection on us and on our leadership style and on how we are shaping the industry. And I believe that Peak Campus and student housing at large are a better industry because he is still in it. And as managers, we can do that every day. We can do that. We can keep the best, strongest, most diverse talent pool in our industry if we keep doing our job well. So I want to say, first of all, that 5 years ago, if somebody had come to me and said, okay, you're not going to get a promotion today, but listen, focus on your legacy. It'll be great. I would have been really annoyed by that, right? Because I would have been like, no, just give me a promotion. I'm sure I'm not alone in that. And I think it is a shift. It's a shift in our mentality every day to say, I'm here. And I have aspirations to be somewhere else, but while I'm here, I'm still making a difference every day. I don't have to be anywhere else to be shaping our industry. And so I think the question then becomes, like, what does that look like? If you're just starting out, if you're just thinking, this is where I'm going to be for a while, how can I make a difference? And I think there are three key things that help me on this path every day, because it does get frustrating, right? Like it does get monotonous. You do think, do I want to keep being a property manager? Am I still passionate about this? And so I look at three things, and these are the things I do to keep my job exciting and challenging and to keep my team moving forward. So number one, I think we have to make it a part of our plan to mentor our staff. It can't just be something that we do. We can't just stumble into mentoring our staff. It has to be intentional and scheduled, and that we know exactly what they're looking to do. So if you aren't doing this right now, I would encourage you to start, even if it's just one-on-one meetings once a month with your team, and make sure they know that you are focused on them. You want to help them grow. Number two, read. Read everything you can about every aspect of the industry. I have read some of the most boring books on commercial real estate investing. I've read a lot of books on all different aspects of the student housing industry and of real estate at large. Some of it's entertaining, some of it's not, but all of it helps me understand some aspect of my job, whether it's understanding what my owners are looking for in a retail lease contract, or understanding what's really going on during the sales process, which is completely overwhelming the first time you do it. So the more you read, the more you know, and the more well-rounded you are, the more you can accomplish in your position. And number 3, I think this is probably goes without saying, and yet sometimes we just don't do it, is to stay in touch with everybody that you know, everybody that you work with. Your leasing consultants that graduate and go to work in other industries are someday going to be working for one of the vendors you want to work with. Your AM that leaves and goes to another competitor or goes to another company, they are someday going to be working for the company you want to interview with. Like, this is a small industry, and the broader your network, the more potential you have, and the more opportunities you're going to have, not just for promotion, but for things like meeting Wes and attending this conference, or doing due diligence on another site within your portfolio, etc. So I think I can't stress enough how important it is to stay in touch with your network and always be networking with the people that you know in this industry. And that's all I have.
So there you have it, guys. Jacki Pingel with Legacy Over Promotion. I hope you got a lot out of that. And also want to make sure that, again, you know that this episode was sponsored by South Park Interiors and Stellar. Go check them out at wearestellardesigns.com. So, Greta, we've got a couple other episodes coming out. Again, we're taking all 4 of the presentations, ripping that audio, turning those into podcasts. So if you haven't seen those on the YouTube channel for Student Housing Insight, you can get those here. They'll be coming out here over the next couple of weeks as podcasts. And then also, you've got a couple of more podcasts coming up as well to finish up your your summer leasing. Your summer has now gone into So no,
fall
you
is
actually
the new summer. It's fine.
You finished up a great one with Amanda Bacon from
WHP.
Yes, which stands for
What's happening Promotions. Yes, and there is a whole preface story that I'm going to give to that in the next, when we record the intro to that story. But yes, I did. I love Amanda. She's one of my favorite people. I'd say that about every single person that I have on my podcast, but that's because I don't pick strangers. I pick people I love. So
really quick, just so we could tease everybody, the title of this one.
It is Promo Gear, The Age of Extra.
Yes, promo gear has changed quite a bit certainly since I got into the industry, and I would say it's probably even changed a few times since you got into the industry.
True.
So if you are wondering what it is that your students in your market are looking for, things that will attract them and hopefully get them to sign a lease, but more importantly, so that they're willing to be a walking Insta-worthy billboard for you, you need to make sure that you listen to that episode. So, all right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.